Hi guys! Hi everybody, or whoever's watching. Today I'm going to change my hearing aid tubing. Now, before you do any maintenance on your hearing aids, please consult with your audiologist. Now, I am going to clean the mold, which is silicone, and it's flexible. I'm going to wash it with soap and water, and I just use regular Dawn dish soap, whatever. And then you need to let it dry completely, like super bone dry, before you use it again. Anyway, so the way you know you need to change your tubing is it's really hard up here and inside the mold area. So you're going to pull it off the tubing, off this hook. This is called a hook. This is if you have BTE hearing aids, which stands for behind the ear, which is this style with the changeable tubing. So you're going to pull it off the hook. Mine is really hard to pull off because it's so hard right now. But you pull that off, and then it's still connected to the mold. And then you can just pull it out of the mold. And then you see there's a little bit of earwax on the interior. And this is rock hard. And then I have a lock on mine. And then don't worry if you have this style hearing aid and this pops off, because it's supposed to come off, but you don't want to pull hard enough to make it come off. But if it comes off, you just click it back in like that. This is the hook. I have a fun sticker on mine. Shiny. Anyway, so then you're going to discard this. Sometimes you need to use the cleaning tool to get this lock, if you have it, out of the mold, because sometimes it does get stuck, and you can just push the metal portion of your cleaning tool through that hole, which you should have gotten from your audiologist. Now, this is hard now. It's really rock hard, so this is going to be discarded, and I do this on a table in case this lock does fling. So I use number 13 locking straight tubing from Microsonic. Whatever tubing you need to ask your audiologist. And your audiologist can also give you a tutorial on how to change your tubing. They can show you. But before you do any maintenance, please ask your audiologist. I've changed my tubing so many times by myself. I'm like an expert. But I did get this new mold. And the hole where the tubing comes in is like extra tight, more than any other mold that I've ever had. So a friend of mine gave me this tube puller, and I've watched many tutorial videos which were absolutely no help whatsoever. So I ended up having to type in to the internet. I said, step by step, how to use a tube puller for a BTE hearing aid mold, and I had to read it step by step. So I'm going to share what I learned with you guys. Now, take this with a grain of salt. Again, every situation is going to be different, so you are going to need to ask your audiologist before you do anything. But coming from somebody who's had hearing loss their entire life and many hearing aids, I feel comfortable doing it. So you take this thing. This is called a tube puller. This is just like a nylon thread, and then this is the handle. It's real flat for whatever reason. There's a whole bunch of different handles that are like flat or not. They sell these on Amazon, Microsonic, ADCO website, which, by the way, I get my tubing from ADCO website called ADCO. They sell Microsonic tubing, but they do free shipping to like the lower 48 of the United States. You can also get them on Microsonic tubing. You just have to check. Or your audiologist might sell them, or you can get tubing sometimes free at your audiologist. Mine doesn't do that, but that's another story. Anyway, this is my tubing. So what you do is you take the portion that goes in your ear. So you need to pay attention. There's 2 holes. Some people have no hole, like only 1 hole. But 2 holes, because the other hole is called a vent to allow airflow for certain frequencies. Anyways, I'm not going to explain because that's not what this video is about. So there's 2 holes. You need to know which hole your tubing goes in, because you're not going to put it in the vent hole. So my vent is the one closest to the edge, and my tube hole is the other one. So, some people don't have a vent. That's for like really severe hearing loss in certain frequencies. So there's that. What you're going to do is you're going to take where you put your tubing in through the part. This is the part that goes in your ear, and it'll sit like this. My hearing aid goes on the other side, but it'll sit like this. So your string, you're going to bend it flat so it fits through the part that goes in your ear all the way to the other side. This just, you don't have to use this tool, but it just makes it so much easier to stick in if your hole is tight. A lot of that happens because your ear mold is new and stiff, or you have dexterity issues, or just difficulties pulling it through the hole. I've seen a lot of videos at this point, and they, even some audiologists who are making videos, they use pliers to pull it all the way through. I don't want to risk getting pliers near my ear mold and my expensive medical equipment. So then you pull it all the way through, okay? And you see how one end of the mold has one end of the tubing has a pointy side. You're going to stick the pointy side through your clear loop, okay? And don't stick it too far in like this, just the tip, okay? And then you're going to hold it in the loop, just the tip sticking out, going that way, out. So then you're going to just pull the loop while holding the mold. It's easier if you do it on a table, but holding the mold with one hand and the tubing with another, like this. So you can hold it all in one hand, see? And then you just pull the tube puller and watch what happens. Let me see if I can angle it so y'all can see it. Now watch what happens. I've pulled it taut. Okay, let me get it at an angle for you guys. Do you see? Hold on. See how this is out? Now this is out that way and this is through the loop. Now I'm going to pull it taut. Okay. Pull it taut. And you're going to keep pulling it taut. Okay. Keep pulling it taut. And keep pulling it, and keep pulling it, and keep pulling it, and keep pulling it. Now watch what happens. I'm going to angle it so you can see it. Keep pulling it, keep pulling it, keep pulling it, keep pulling it, keep pulling it. Don't worry about hurting it. It's not going to hurt it. Just keep pulling it, 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 keep pulling it. Oh, yeah. Keep pulling it, keep pulling it, keep pulling it, and don't worry, you're not going to pull too hard. It's not that hard to pull it. I'm just doing it slow for you guys. Now just pull, pull. You see it going through? Pull it, 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 till that loop, the pointy part is all the way in. Yeah. Now, it's in. You've threaded it. Now, for me personally, I need to pull it in a little bit more because you see the lock. I don't know if you can see that, but see that plastic bit? The lock's not in all the way, which I can just pull that in a little bit. So, according to my audiologist and almost every audiologist, you need to keep it at a 90-degree angle. So don't pull this bend in all the way because that's what can obstruct some sound. So it's like an antenna. You have to have it at exactly the right angle. So I'm just going to pull that lock in, okay? And I don't want to pull the bend in. You want to leave the bend out. So there's my 90-degree angle. See that? Okay. Now all of this can be cut off. Now you want to be very, very careful not to cut your mold, okay? So you want to stick this like this and just cut it at the very end. You can always trim it a little more. You can use nose hair scissors or nail clippers. The really tiny nail clippers work really well if you don't cut it flush enough, because I've noticed if you don't cut it flush enough, then the little edge will be scratching you inside your ear, and that's no fun. So let's cut it. And then I usually pull it through a little more than I need, because then there's always this little edge. Can you see that little piece that sticks out right there? And then I can just pull it back a little bit. So that way I don't have to worry about cutting it all the way. And then my tube is in the mold, and then it's also like that. So you want to make sure that your lock, if you're using one, is all the way in the mold. If you need to do any more trimming, you can do that at this time. but you want to make sure that you get a 90-degree angle or as close to it as you can. So there it is. It looks like I need to do one more trimming session. So I'm going to trim it down. Okay, and there it is. This is how mine looks. Okay, and if you need to do some more trimming, like I said, do I have nose hair scissors? No, but what I do have in my kit right here is, this is my kit for making cure lines, the safety line for your implant processor. I do have nail clippers, and what you can do is if you need to cut the tip, you can always just get in there with some nail scissors, nail clippers, and get that tip off, because you don't want anything left over, because it will scratch you. I've had that happen on multiple occasions, so I think I've got mine. You can always feel it to see if it's going to be in your ear nice and comfy. So I think I need to cut one little more bit, and then we can move on to the next step. All right, got it. Perfect. Now, the next step is measuring. So what you want to do is you want to cut it. You can use your other tubing to kind of measure it. I always measure it with my other tubing, but don't do it exact. I do it longer because it does shrink up. So you do it longer than your actual tubing, because this will shrink up, especially if it is really hard. So I line it up like this to where it would be in the ear, and then I cut it a lot longer than it needs to be, or a little, depending on how experienced you are with doing this process, okay? So let me show you. I'm lining it up. So here it is. Lining it up. And then I'm going to cut it. See, I lined it up to where it needs to be on the mold. Let me face it the other direction. So I lined it up like this, and then I'm going to cut it a little bit longer than I need, okay? Now, you might, let me show you how much longer I cut it, because it does shrink when it gets colder. So see, I cut it longer. Now, you stick this back on your hook. There is a tube expander. If you are having difficulty putting it on the hook, you can go ahead and get a tube expander. But that's up to you. It's personal preference of how difficult it is for you. I've just been doing this a long time that I don't need to have one. But if you need to, you can. And you might need one in the beginning, because you will have a lot of curse words to get it on your hook. Okay. Sometimes I actually feel like it's easier to take it off the hearing aid and push it on the hook, because you have more leverage holding the hook, because the hook can pop off the hearing aid. So you just stick it in here, okay? Let me show you. So you might have to jimmy rig it and kind of wiggle it in there to get it on. And then it's on. Now you see how it's on? There's a little ridge right there. You don't want to push it over the ridge. So then you stick this back on and you stick it on your ear. Obviously, this is too long, but I'm just showing you as an example. So you stick it on your ear. Do I have a hair tie right here? I do not. I should have thought about a hair tie before making this video, but at any rate, this should be good enough. Anyway, so excuse the hair, I'm tying it up just so you can see my ear. Anyway, so then you put it on your ear, put the ear mold in first. Now mine's not on, so it still shouldn't be on. And then you just, so don't worry about the ear plugging. And you see, turn your head. You see how much gap you have? You need to cut it. So then you just keep cutting it down to where you need it. Okay. And then, so then you just cut it a little bit more with your scissors. And you don't want to cut it. Like, see, look how much tiny piece I'm cutting. The tiniest piece. You don't want to cut, look at that. The tiniest piece, because you don't want to cut too much, because then you'll have to start over if it's too short. So it's better to cut it longer than you need, instead of having to risk it being too short and then having to start this process all over, because you see I've already made an almost 15-minute video. So mind you, there's that. But I also gave you some vital information as well. So hopefully you all are learning something. So again, I'm sticking this back on my hook. I took my hook off my hearing aid to give better leverage, like I said. And then you're going to stick your hook on here, hearing aid. Whoever already knows how to do this is probably watching me cringing right now. But there it is. Then you stick it back on like this. It just goes in here for this particular hearing aid. Some might be different. So listen to your audiologist. Put the ear mold in first. The part that goes in your canal, in your ear canal, goes in first. Then the top of the ear. And then you wrap this around the back. And then you look in the mirror and you see where there's a gap. The ear hook should be flush like this. So you see how it's up? Means I need to cut some more. So then you just take it off and you keep doing this until you have it flush. I'm doing this in real time so that anybody who's watching can see exactly how long it's going to take to change your hearing aid tubing for your BTE. If you've never done it, this is exactly how long it takes. Now I can do it like super fast now because I've done this so many times, and now I don't have to struggle because I have the tube puller. I definitely recommend, if you have a new mold, to see if you can borrow one from your audiologist, because once your mold is much more loosened up, I noticed you might not need it. It's just people might need it forever. So now I'm sticking it back on, putting it back on my ear, and we're going to try this again. So get it secured on there, and then put it back on your ear and try again. So get it all situated, put it in your ear, and then flip it up. Woo! And I didn't get the hook attached. That's why you need to do it on the table, because I didn't get the ear hook fully secured on. So you want to do it and then firmly push. But don't push too hard, because this is just a piece of plastic. Okay. So that happens sometimes, which is why I'm glad I did it on the table. So then you have it flush. You see how my ear mold is in my ear. The ear hook is fully flush to my ear, and the tubing is at a 90-degree angle. Yeah. All right. So thank you to my friend for giving me this tube puller, because I had a difficulty getting it in my new mold. The hole was just tighter than it normally is, and I don't know if that's because of the way they made it or if it was new, but the tube puller is from a friend who wasn't using it, and it makes it easier to stick it through the hole. The reason being is because this one was just tighter than I was normally used to, but this is a new mold, so I'm not sure if it's going to loosen up over time, but it feels like the hole is a little bit smaller. But that's fine, because now I have the special tool to do it, and now you have information on how to do it yourself. So talk to your audiologist, and I definitely recommend, if you can, please do your own maintenance, because it makes it so much easier, so much faster, less appointments, and a better hearing aid experience, in my opinion. And makes it much easier on your audiologist, not having to schedule you just to change your tubing. As you can see, it's easy and fast. Well, my mom always said it's easy once you know, but now you know. Anyways, thanks for watching. Happy hearing. And I will talk to you guys, or whoever else is watching. See you later. Bye-bye. Oh, wait, I need to turn on my hearing aid. It is so weird. I had occlusion. If anybody doesn't know what occlusion is, that's the ear plugging feeling, like when you wear earplugs. So in order to shut off your hearing aid, you push for this particular BTE, you hold down the button till the light comes off, and then when you go like this, you won't hear any feedback, like static or squeaking. And then to turn it back on, you push the button again and hold it until the light comes back on. So That's for this hearing aid. And before you change your tubing, you want to make sure that your hearing aid is completely off. Ooh, the gift of sound and my own maintenance. I didn't have to drive an hour to the audiologist just to do that. Anyways, there it is. And happy hearing. Talk to you guys later. Bye.